the right to vote.
So each and every one of us, in addition to our birth certificate, will be given a web certificate. And this allows us access to the internet. And so they can begin to go through and pass these out amongst the population and give them out at birth, etc., and begin to classify everybody by different types of preferences and different cultures and genetics. But in a network state, they're not necessarily in the same country. And even though they have the physicality of living next to each other, they will be divided.
Good and decent people of YouTube, I know you're wondering, what was that? That was strange, especially for this channel. But I guarantee you that today's show is not going to disappoint. And you're going to need to watch it. You're going to need to watch it. But every now and then, when you do what I do, you wake up, you turn this thing on, and somebody somewhere has introduced an idea, or better explained an idea than you could, just because you're in the zeitgeist, because we all kind of hear and see and have a feeling of what's going on but can't express it. There's a comedian, there's a commentator, there's someone out there who does it perfectly. One of my favorite sketch writers, Steve Shives, his comedy here is more poignant than even he knows, because who I spoke to over the weekend, somebody who is in the tech space, somebody who is forwarded, invented, come up with tech spaces on their own that you use daily. Things that, from AI to aerospace, he has been a part of our movement, but is also currently still working in these spaces. But more importantly, in our interview, he opened up an entire idea that I think is important, but it's so hard to get your head around. I thought this would be a really good way to introduce it. Steve Shives, check this out.
Republican lawmakers in the House and the Senate are lining up unanimously to support President Trump's newly announced America Plus subscription service, with House Speaker Mike Johnson hailing it as, quote, the most innovative update to democracy since the ratification of the Constitution. Here with more is our chief political correspondent. What can subscribers expect from America Plus? According to spokespeople for President Trump and special government employee Elon Musk, who is being given credit for first proposing the service, subscribers to America Plus can expect all the benefits of American citizenship to which they've become accustomed, including free use of public roads and sidewalks, access to radio and television programming broadcast for free over the airwaves, though it should be noted that most of that programming is ad-supported, and, of course, the right to vote. Subject to state and local regulation, of course. America Plus Basic subscribers, but for an additional fee, which, like the basic subscription, can be paid monthly or annually with a 10% discount, which is a fantastic deal. Premium subscribers can not only enjoy the benefits of America Plus Basic, but also all the cherished liberties enumerated in the Bill of Rights and subsequent amendments to the Constitution. That includes the ones you mentioned: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, as well as some of those more obscure rights that are rarely invoked but sure are nice to have in a pinch, like the right to due process and the protection against cruel and unusual punishment.
It's hilarious when he does it. It's hilarious because it's not meant to be real. There comes a point in time when you can't even use parody because the reality is so stark. Unknowingly, Steve Shives hit on a reality that could better explain what you're about to hear. I'm just going to show it to you. Guys, today, here's a conversation I had with someone in the know, vetted by me, and going to give a stark truth that we're going to use as a unifying message for the next however long we have, because it's that big. Check it out. Hey, my friend, thank you so much for joining me today. So before we get into this presentation, tell the people a little bit about what you do. I know that you can't get into too much because for obvious reasons. Why should they believe you? before we get into this presentation, let's just give a little bit about what it is that you do, where you've been, what the space you've been working in.
You could say that I've been working in some of the key technologies that have gained a lot of momentum in the last few years, I would say over the last decade. And I run amongst these circles, and I'm being very careful about what I say because I need to be able to continue to live.
Understood.
And I would immediately be targeted for this.
Understood. All right, let's start with the presentation, my friend. Again,
All right.
we appreciate you being here, and we know the risk that you're taking.
All right, can you see my screen?
I can. Yep, I see the mouse moving.
All right, so I'm just titling this, I'm the One. Oh, really? So we're kind of familiar right now with this world we've grown up in, technology and the rise of these different people that have really taken control of this kind of virtual version of ourselves, this virtual reality, our digital copies that exist in the web. And amongst those players, a number of different folks have kind of risen to an extreme level of power that crosses borders, it crosses countries, it joins cultures, and brings together the world in a way that was never possible before. In one place we all now exist in, the connections that have joined this all together have become really points of power. People begin to gather under particular platforms, under different visions, under different methods of sale and transit and everything, and it's channeling into a set of group of people that have really, he's won the game of capitalism, right? He has more money and has more control of anything that he has won. He may bounce in and out of the most money in the world, but he's won the game of capitalism within the structures of government that allows. We've noticed lately, though, between this, the race has kind of changed a bit. The competition's always been there, but it's really achieved a critical mass now, in particular for an individual here. And in this critical mass, he's now deployed things like Starlink, which gives him untethered network capabilities across the entire world. And with that, you can see a roadmap where, he's soon going to have cellular phones that are going to be able to connect everybody around the world into this network. We noticed that he's grabbed things like X and started backing Bitcoins.
Right.
More recently, we've seen the emergence of AI. And this is kind of a wild card in this whole scenario. Sam here is kind of on the outside. But if we just ignore that for right now, because that piece is still kind of in flux, but the general consensus and momentum is that this guy is now kind of in charge. So he's kind of taken everybody along the way, and, what do you do when you've kind of won everything already as far as, the economy within a single government, you kind of hit the ceiling where you realize even though you have all this power, there's still other people in power above you that may not be considered as smart as you, but yet they control what you do and how you do it. The idea that groups of people, whether they're smarter than you or not, can make decisions for you is just mind-blowing for this particular person that feels that they are the smartest person on the planet. So, this is no fun. This needs to go.
This person thinks that, but I want to make sure that we understand that he is not that. He's not the smartest person. But when you have that narcissism, when you believe that obviously you're smarter than the world leaders, obviously anyone who doesn't listen to you is a dummy, right? So,
but he's still, even though he's the most powerful guy in capitalism, there are still more powerful people in the world because he doesn't make the laws, right? He's being told what to do. This kind of goes into his mentality. The thing is, where he is from, in South Africa, there is no services. There's barely anything to help anybody else. It's all about money. There's a clear separation. It was a mad experiment to create this ultra society, and that went wrong. But he's from there, and he only recently came to the United States. That's why you can see him bumping into everything and crashing into everything, because he doesn't understand why we did this. He doesn't understand the history behind the laws and why we created those things. To him, it all looks broken because he doesn't understand any of it. So he ain't making anything new. He's just ripping it apart because it's all useless to him. To him, we should be separated. There is a difference between us. There are people that are dumb and there are people who are smart, and he wants that type of control again in the world. He had a different kind of control over there he does not have here.
Got you.
So, like I said, the folks that surround him that are more powerful because they have the support of the people, this is the problem. So, you're saying, no way, not Elon, the guy that's sending armadas of electric vehicles to put out our burning planet. Those people are confused, like, not that guy. But what about the guy that's sending us some rockets to dodge meteors over to Mars?
I thought the same
that's
thing.
really inspirational and sounds really cool. These are good things this guy's doing. Yeah, it's a good thing. We're doing great things, right? He's a good guy. He gets us motivated, gets all of us nerds pants on fire, like, hell yeah, this is like the ultimate sci-fi adventure. Gets all of our, eco people on board. But then what about this wild stuff we're seeing? We're seeing this rise of extremism to the right. We're seeing these people pulled in around him in support of folks we know outright are anti-community. They want a society that makes them the ultra cad. So even those people are confused. Like, why the hell is Mr. Green Pants over here and Mr. Space Nut? Yeehaw. Well, there's a reason that he's doing this. So these are called unifying goals. And this is kind of the philosophy behind this particular aspect of the book. You have your white supremacists that you can gather together under the message of, ultra-white supremacy. You've got the Nazis that have their own vision as well that you can align folks under. You've got other folks. The thing is that it works both ways. You've got folks here that are into the Mars thing, thinking about that. You can gather people under that. You can gather people under the idea of global warming. You'll get a ton of people behind you under that. You can literally use that same philosophy for anything, such as corruption, such as DEI. You don't need to. Anybody can create a unifying goal, right? It's whether or not the people choose to follow it, and if you've got a big enough microphone to draw enough people in. You don't need everybody. You just need some from each of these groups. Then you have other types of unifying goals, such as the network state. You don't hear about it over the microphones, but the people that could actually take action on this have been told about it and indoctrinated, many of them. So, you start to see these symbols start to converge together under one particular source. I can tell you that this Sig Heil, if you're not aware, it wasn't a fuck you. And it wasn't Sig Heil. It's a threat, and it's a challenge. He feels he is the ultra Chad, the ultra gamer. This is a challenge to everyone. I own you. Come beat me in this game or die. That's it. He wants a game that anybody that he wants the ultra game. And he didn't have this idea before. See, if you understand a little about the psyche of Elon Musk. So as I'm describing Elon, he is one of the most insecure people you will ever meet. He needs to compete with everybody and be better than everybody, but he has an impossible mission there. Because he is not a genius. I mean, he's smart. I believe that he is an HBT, which is a highly performant thinker. And I believe that because I'm one of those as well. An HBT is somebody that can come into a situation and kind of have that big picture ability. I believe he's that. And he also understands a very key thing about inventing. The idea is easy. It's the execution. You'll stumble across people all the time that have great ideas, but very few that can execute. And so when you do execute, that gives you a certain amount of credibility, even though you did not necessarily invent it. And he has taken this to heart. And I think, as we've seen with so many things that he's had his hands on, this plan right now is another example of that. So, he's in this particular challenge. He comes here to America with these values around controlling people through separation of both information and physicality. He lands in Hollywood and learns about the ability to create your image. I use this for a lot of things that I do, because I also learn these skills. The world at large doesn't know you personally. They only see the little bits that get put out out to the world through the past traditional methods, but now the web has kind of taken over that. But you have the ability to paint the image for the world to see of you. And if you're very careful of that, you can make them feel any way you want about the world, any way about you that you want. It's just the way that Hollywood works. So he painted himself to be a genius. He knows better. So, but there is a way that he can actually kind of continue to achieve this and write this history of him being the most smartest, greatest, most best gamer ever. And that goes back to this problem of having people that can still tell him what to do, or could. So, he's gathered his people. He's created currency. He started doing all these interesting things when you start to look at it from a higher level. Now, introducing Balaji. So Balaji, 22, wrote a book called The Network State. Then he started going around and doing these seminars at most of the tech campuses or anywhere else that will let him talk about this stuff and expose him to people that were gifted in technology or that were super wealthy. And Balaji sees the world a little bit differently, and he sees it a little bit more like Elon would like to see it, as a game. So this is a message not for just the average citizen. This is a message for the governments. Elon is taking down these walls, these physical lines that we've made, these imaginary barriers, and he's looking at everybody as a whole. And he's saying, okay, countries in this new world that I want to envision are no longer defined by borders. And it's no longer controlled by laws. The world itself now is one object, and this is all a game. And kind of started to define some of the metrics that define a population and success and all of those things as a way to score points. And so, in order to get to this state, force everybody to now throw aside all of their leaders and come together, or more importantly, divide. You need a plan. And so, this is where Balaji comes in. And so Balaji starts talking to everybody in these places, and most people like myself kind of just shrugged it off as, either information I probably already knew about because just the name of it is very obnoxious. You don't know what's behind this if you saw it in a list of training or seminars that are coming up that you can attend. But if you look into this stuff, and this is a warning I'm going to put out to anybody that's interested in figuring out what this is, the content has been dominated by material that's intended to sell you on this concept. It's going to sweet talk you into the idea of segregation. You're going to hear things like people together with similar hearts. This is code for segregation. Don't mistake what I'm saying or not hear what I just said. They are trying to indoctrinate people that are capable of implementing the network state. And they're using words like organizing to bring people together, to live together, that all share the same heart. And weird sweet talk like that is simply meant to get you into the idea that being and living in a separate society, both on the network and physically, is a good idea. It's also trying to soften the blow so that when it comes time, as they take your rights, you're kind of half-sold on this. They're trying to minimize the resistance. They're trying to take and distract you to go to other things that are not effective to diffuse your energy. But this is all part of the plan. Anybody that looks into this will see the exact steps that are occurring right now all around us. That's why everybody's confused, like, what the hell is going on? It doesn't make sense. He's doing this, he's doing that. That's a playbook that's in here. We're in a particular stage right now called taking the land. We'll get into that more. So, now, Elon has a new plan. 2016 didn't work. He needed something else. This new plan, our laws can't save us. Okay? So now, I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to go here. So now we have this world, right? Here it is. And now that we've got the cloud around it, there's no physical, nothing stopping us from connecting everybody together. We have the databases in place. We've got all of the players in place. Some that are less mysterious than they try to be. And everybody's kind of on this new playing field. And we've got folks and everybody coming together on these virtual communities. And, we've got this idea now, like, what do we do without borders? What does this look like? What does a network state look like? How did they get there? What do you mean by this? Well, let me give you a little understanding about the big change going on. So, www, or W3, as they like to call it. We all know what that is, the World Wide Web. The idea is a little bit less obvious than they want it to be. But what they want to do is assign everybody a web certificate. So each and every one of us, in addition to our birth certificate, will be given a web certificate. And this allows us access to the internet, typical. If you don't have an active and valid web certificate, you don't get to browse the web or have access. So it's no longer open Wild West. It's now the web becomes locked down. And so they can begin to go through and pass these out amongst the population and give them out at birth, etc., and begin to classify everybody by different types of preferences and different cultures and genetics and all of those things, but begin to become organized in a very digital way. So what does this allow us to do? So what they can do is create kind of a new form of governance. They kind of call them states, right? And you can take folks and from all over around the world and be able to kind of organize them in a way. So you've got folks here and here and here and here, let's say, and you've got Jim here and he's got his neighbor Paul, and they don't agree. Jim thinks like, that handouts for people are bad, and that everybody should be able to just survive off what they make, and if they can't do it, then they're shut out a lot. And Paul is from another country where helping each other was not only a good thing, it was necessary for the survival of his community. So they have very different perspectives, but they're both Americans in our world. But in a network state, they're not necessarily in the same country. And even though they have the physicality of living next to each other, they will be divided by their preferences and culture. It literally takes away Paul's vote because he doesn't agree, and he will be put into a different state. So what's different about this? What's the big deal? We get put in different chat rooms and get blocked and blah, 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 all the time. Well, this is much deeper. So if you take a look here, each state, they do not talk to each other. So these are separate experiences of information. What happens is that everybody is connected into the cloud. I got my unicorns and dragons here because that's very much what it's going to be. Anything that's occurring between these two will be virtualized and made happy. They're going to be told what they need to keep them separated. Any advancements made, these things are not shared. There's a thing called the inheritance advantage. That's what Elon's going for right now. The founder, the person that's inheriting all of the money, power of the original forming state, and also forming the network state. So he can set this. So state B, we like them a bit, they're alright. We don't want them in our power. We want to decide what we want to do, but they get some technology, they get some information. State C, less. State D, etc., etc. If state E comes up with something wonderful, he can't share it with state D or state C, but state A, the original state, player one, gets that if he wants it, and can decide if he wants to share it. But this is a competition, remember. So we're measured by certain things to figure out who of these races is the most powerful and capable. So, gone are orders. So, how is this going to matter? People don't have to do this. The governments are going to have something to say about this, aren't they? That's where this plan gets even more simple, but effective. What is a government? What is a state? It's basically physical land, a population, wealth. And if you have those things, you have a bunch of people that will agree that, they're all part of your movement. They are all under your unifying message. That all he needs to make this happen is to be recognized. So then, literally, all of these governments, we're going to lose that population under this new virtual state. And if others are doing that too, we're seeing an immediate collapse of the borders, and governments control things now. You're saying, this is crazy. No flipping way. No, it's actually quite simple. Thomas Balaji's quick recipe for world domination. This stuff's all in the book. So if you think I'm making this up, no, I'm breaking this down in a childlike fashion for people so they can be able to digest this in little pieces and hopefully formulate the bigger picture. Here's what the instructions are, and I'll break down where we are right now in this process, because we are halfway down the list. Found a society online. We know of a few, but in particular in this case, X. Create general unifying goals. We were just going over that, weren't we? Got lots of them. And they're not all of one type of person. They affect the good people and the bad people. He's bringing them together. Build trust offline. That means you need to have some form of physical trust to back this virtual world that you're building. You need to get people involved and them to believe in it. This goes back to that strange adoption of Bitcoin earlier on. A sudden push behind it. So next up, take the land. So this is the point where shit hits the fan for you and I in day-to-day life, really. And we're seeing it now. Take the land is it's a very detailed set of instructions on how to overthrow a government through kind of what's called like an auto-coup, an internal attack that allows you to take over something. And that's done through voting systems and getting yourself inside to do the next steps. But the additional steps that correspond after this, because we're going to dive into the stage right here in a few moments, because this is where we are right now, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about it, what's happening currently, and what people need to think about doing next to slow this down. Digitally connect to the physical. This is another stage that he's looking to get to next. And that's where he's going to begin to add everybody to the system. He's going to digitally connect to the physical, organize a census, and generate a score. This is where the stuff gets sick. This is how they determine their points in one way. So to figure out things at the end of the day, but it's also the same scoreboard that's used for them to gain recognition and become a state. So once he goes through and he does the census, they're going to go through and create this key. The next thing they're going to do is go to gain recognition. So we know their plan. Let's look at this a little bit more closely. What are the requirements to even do this plan? Only the most wealthy, hateful, insecure, and sociopathic CEOs who have complete control of physical and social networks can partake in this ultimate of hateful games. You must hate mankind, and you must have a whole lot of gullible people. There's some missing ingredients that I think you and I would love to see in this recipe. Equality. This does not exist anymore in this game. There is no freedom like you and I grew up and enjoyed. Nature no longer controls the path of mankind and its destiny. We are now lab animals in an experiment to see who's the best at raising people. Elections, if they exist anymore, are meaningless. The people's voice, it's been turned off. Weaknesses to this, they have huge weaknesses. This plan is not complete. It does not take into the wild card that is you and I. So the resistance, you can simply say no to this. If we all freaking threw our phones away and started living like we did 25, 30 years ago, this wouldn't work. But we're not in that world right now. They want to immediately get rid of your rights and your ability to defend yourself like the Constitution. Our forefathers were super smart with what they put together. It is a logjam for any kind of monarchy or dictators or any attempt to do anything like that. When we give this up, our shields are down. Our choice is a weakness to them. Like I just mentioned, being offline is a weakness to them. In the grander scale, in the minor scale, that only helps them. We can just sit there unaware and let them do what they're going to do. This is a weakness that only helps them and only helps us on the grandest of scales. Real awareness. That means not aware of the current stuff that you're being told by media, but more understanding of the bigger picture, like I'm explaining to you, as to what's going on so that you and your families can be safe and more prepared and the citizens are alert and aware and prepared. Because I want to just go back on one statement I said earlier. Segregation by any other name is segregation. Keep that in mind as they tell you that they want to separate you because it's good for you and everybody should be happy. So take the land. This is the stage we are in right now. Okay, so in Take the Land, the idea is now, instead of dominating the online world and winning the hearts of the people into these massive unified groups, you need to put that rubber to the road and begin to actually take the physical land. We've already lost the first portion of the Take the Land chapter. They have won the vote. We're in a game of catch up now. All of us were shocked that this happened, that they were actually able to freaking do it. But now that we hit this stage, it is red alert. This is the beginning of the end of America. So, in this plan, the next stage is that they take the lands. So they've got control now, so they have the ability to begin taking funding, to destroy programs, all of the framework that allows people still to hold the homes and lands and things that they have now. Whether we like to admit it or not, most of us at some point or another has received help from the government. In particular, farmers are a huge example of that. Their work, their land, their bills, their money, everything is subsidized so that we can control inflation. We cannot be subject to rising and falling chemical costs, equipment costs, labor costs, changes in other people's governments. We built this because we need to be able to maintain a steady cost of living for people and protect our citizens. This is what that's for. Now that they've cut the subsidies and all of those things, these farms and such are going to very quickly fall. There's corporations right now looking to buy this land and in mass and buy it up as quickly as they can knock down those dominoes. In addition to that, if you look in the book and you follow the plan, you can see ahead and you can see the pieces in play right now that are precursors to things. Part of what they're trying to do is create these trade wars. They want to ruin all of our best deals on goods that we get. They want to destroy the things that support the farms and raise the prices even higher so that those that try to find lifelines will struggle even harder to hold on things, and eventually those things break. So what about you at home? Well, you're safe, you've got your house. No. The idea is to drive inflation up. Because as you sit in your home, things are going to get harder and harder, and as more and more people fall off that edge and lose their homes, all of those are going to be snatched up too. And you ask why? Why do they want to do this? Well, they want all those people on the edge to be knocked off. They want them all in the systems, on a welfare system that is controlled by the government, and they're going to create mass housing to shove everybody into. So they want to put everybody into this mass housing. It's a way to kind of, they'll call it a solution for homeless and all of these different wonderful statements. But it's them en masse putting the entire population under their control. If you don't go along with what they want, they're going to separate you out to different states, begin to separate it for everybody both physically and online. So, I know that's a lot of information, and as you can see, there are a lot of indicators that support what I'm telling you. We're seeing the exact plan being followed. If you look into what I'm telling you, as I'm warning you, do not get pulled into it. It is the biggest mindfuck you've ever seen. When you go in there, they try to sweet talk you into giving away your freedom and how it's such a great thing. It is poisonous. Do not fall for it if you want to look into the things I'm talking about. But it is very much out there. There was a lot of seminars recorded. It's scary as all get out, and you're going to see the exact steps being followed. For whatever reason, the biggest ears in the world took this plan to heart. So, as I mentioned, we're in this stage. I'm giving you some steps right now that we're in and the details around it so you can kind of recognize what's happening. And what I want to kind of go into right now is what can you actually do about this? As I mentioned before, we can look at the book. We need people to go out and look into this, not fall for it, and start recognizing what's happening. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. But people need to learn about this, and I think it's vital that we challenge Elon on this. He needs to be put to task and told, are you following this plan? The idea there is that I don't think he's going to admit to it, even though all of a sudden the pundits that were trying to promote it are starting to pop up. out of nowhere, unasked. And I think there's a lot of proof in the pudding that he's not going to be able to hide from. But if he indeed is following this plan, take the land, in my opinion, equates to the big T. I don't want to say the word, but you all know what that means. And we have the duty as citizens, and it's been done historically. I think it's a matter of people coming to terms with the situation and understanding their role as a citizen and what we need to do to protect our country. So there are some basic things that we can do to protect ourselves and start to prepare and try to slow down this mechanism. 1, do not believe the paid media. This is lubrication for you to give up your rights. And in many cases, it's just plain opposite. They're going to tell you the exact opposite of what they're doing to get some people to believe that. It's in the book. You wonder why they do that? Because it works. Do not go along with this. If you look into some of the content, you're going to see they admit if people don't agree, this doesn't work. We either march into the concentration camps on our own or it doesn't happen. But if people don't realize that, they're going to walk right along. As I mentioned multiple times about this, as you look into the content for network state, do not get indoctrinated. It is some of the most powerful psychological manipulation that you will ever experience. Unite with ex-MAGA. They are not, that you may not like how they think, but they are not your enemy. They are Americans. It chokes me up to say it, but they've been tricked. To this group of people, they are unwitting minions. They are part of this united message that are getting carried away with it. Prepare. So the next step right now, and I say this, and it may not be understood so well, but save the farms. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying go stand out there and stand in the farm and prevent them from mowing smashing everything down and throwing everybody out. It may come to that, but right now what needs to happen is we need to back the farms financially. These things that are occurring right now are to basically run them out of money and force them into foreclosure. We cannot let it get to that step. We need to figure out alternative methods to support these farms and keep them from closing. Once those start to fall, it's going to be very hard to get them back, and it is one of a series of set of dominoes that we will struggle to come back from. Be very loud, on and offline. So yes, go out and march and meet with other people and do what it takes to get our voices heard in the public. But we need to do this online too. People are scared to click like on things that right now might be controversial things. They may not speak up about things that they believe in because they're scared to be identified as being not part of the movement and somehow face some kind of rejection or loss or be cut out in some kind of way. Get over that fear. They can see those metrics. It's very clear by the press conference the other day that they can see the discontent and the people starting to rise up, and they had to react to that sudden reaction as people realized that they're going for rights. He was in damage control, trying to justify himself and make what he's doing sound less like what it is. They can see your response. So our protection is in numbers. We need to be so many of us saying things that they can't isolate us one at a time to take us out. There's just too many. We need people to speak up online. It is critical. Don't be shy. Love your country. Next step, fight disinformation. As I mentioned, we need to challenge Elon about this plan. He needs to be called out. Is this what you're doing? And he needs to defend what he's doing, why it's different than what's in the book. Because it's not. And if he's doing what's in the book, he needs to be held accountable for what he's doing against our country. I repeat, we need to challenge him on this. Next, participate in group efforts. Don't sit on your couch. Other people can't save you this time. Stock up on supplies of all types. As costs go up, they're going to try to make you run out of things that you need and continue to drive you to do desperate things. Try to put that off as long as you can. Gain some new skills. Protection. Learn how to protect yourself. Be aware of situations at all times. Think about what you're doing. Think about others and look out for each other. Get this frame of mind. Learn drones. This new type of technology has proven itself. We can look overseas and see how these things are saving people's lives. We need this technology to be common knowledge. Communication. We can't depend on things. Prepare for a communication outage. Take your networks, make them redundant. Have a way to reach out to people if things suddenly change. Get your medical needs set. Learn medical skills. Be prepared for situations that you never thought you'd see yourself in. Having other types of things, camping, canning skills, farming skills, different types of things that can help us become a little bit more able to slow down the wheel. Now, all these things sound crazy, but one of the common things that we can do is understand the root cause. There are a million fires going on, and that's what they want. But there is a source of these fires. You know what it is. I've spent a lot of time tonight talking about the direction we're headed in and why, and the source of it. Also, we all feel that everybody needs to go out and understand what civic duty is and what each of us as citizens' responsibility in a time when our government is no longer serving us and is being used to attack us. So everybody needs to understand what that duty is and get the mindset to be able to perform this duty when the time comes. So it's a lot of information, and I think people will probably need to take it in steps to really be able to absorb it all. These are very important things you can do right now that don't necessarily cost money, but they do take a level of seriousness from yourself about you, your future, and the future of this country. This is a warning. I am in the middle of this. God bless you all. Good luck. Godspeed.
This transmission is ended.
Wow. Oh, it's very rarely that I'm at a loss for words. And even the second time, once again, it did the exact same thing. So here, YouTube, what you just saw here was a lot. It is a lot. I promise you that I will not leave you here. My friend here will be coming back to help break down some of these things that we can do, and we're going to expand on it together. You and I, YouTube, me and him, SOL, Political Drain. Everybody knows that we have a resistance going. We will be breaking this down, and we're going to be feeding it to you. We're going to be feeding it to you piece by piece. What's happening, how to fix it, piece by piece. So if you don't get it all now, I understand. But YouTube, I'm gonna have you back, sir. We're giving them the whole thing, but I'm gonna be breaking it down. I'm gonna be looking at this myself, and we have a message, and we're gonna be unifying under this message. This will be our unifying message.
That's going to be key. Like I mentioned, this is a game. There's nobody saying we can't use the same book against them. So creating unified messaging is proven to work. Obviously, a lot of folks are susceptible to it, as we can see. So
I'm gonna leave it here. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this. And we'll make sure that we do everything we can to ensure that you stay safe and to get you back here again. And we'll talk more about it. This will be our unifying message. Political Drain has your back. The Sons of Liberty has your back. And we will have you back.
safe. They're going to silence you, so just do your best. Take care, everybody. We're in a tough time, and